If you consider yourself to be a 90s kid, then your childhood probably sounded a little something like this. "1994's Spider-Man the Animated Series is still one of the most beloved versions of the friendly neighborhood superhero. Produced by Marvel Animation and written by John Semper Jr., this 5-season show introduced a whole generation of kids to everything that makes Peter Parker so fantastic, bringing the hero and his decades of incredible comic book stories to life in a way unlike anything we'd ever seen before. The series ran from November 1994 to January 1998 and adapted countless classic Spider-Man stories. However, it's the show that came after it that I find even more fascinating. Now, everyone remembers this Spider-Man show, sure, but I very rarely hear anyone mention the 1999 animated series Spider-Man Unlimited. Spider-Man Unlimited was quite unique compared to its predecessor. Set on an alternate Earth, Spider-Man chases down Venom and Carnage, as well as teaming up with a band of freedom fighters to fight the villainous High Evolutionary. To say this show strayed away from the classic Spider-Man status quo is definitely an understatement, but the sheer uniqueness of it all makes me wonder just why it's become so forgotten about. So in this video, I want to dive into the history of how Spider-Man Unlimited was first conceived, the original ideas and plans behind this fresh take on the character, and what the plans were for the show's long-term story beyond its initial 13 episodes, and the lost second season of Spider-Man Unlimited that was planned but never brought to life. The original Spider-Man the Animated Series aired on Fox Kids and proved to be one of the network's most popular shows throughout its 4-year run. Now, after the conclusion of its final season in early 1998, questions between Marvel and Fox began to arise about the future of the partnership. You see, due to the show still maintaining high viewing figures at the time of its conclusion, both companies were keen on securing the rights for Fox to re-air the original 65 episodes. However, in order to do so, Fox asked Marvel to produce a new Spider-Man focused show that would air alongside it. Originally, Marvel's plan was to hire Saban Entertainment, the team behind the original show and the likes of X-Men the Animated Series, to create a motion comic adaptation of the original Stan Lee Steve Ditko comic books. However, these plans fell apart once Sony Pictures acquired the Spider-Man film rights in 1999, with their contract stipulating that Sony would be able to make a new animated series to tie in with their upcoming feature film, resulting in the 2003 short-lived MTV Spider-Man series. Now, while this meant that Marvel could produce a new Spider-Man show in-house, they wouldn't be able to adapt any of the material also used as inspiration for Sony's films or the spin-off cartoons, including the character's origin and backstory, with the terms also stating that while Marvel retained the rights to use the Spider-Man character, they couldn't actually use any of his regular supporting cast. As a result, Marvel and Saban went back to the drawing board and initially considered adapting the popular Spider-Man 2099 comic book, only for DC to release their futuristic sequel to Batman the Animated Series in Batman Beyond that same year. With no immediate ideas springing to mind, Marvel instead gave Saban a list of characters and concepts that they retained the rights to and felt could be translated well into animation, with the list including Venom, Deathlock, the High Evolutionary and Counter-Earth. Writer Michael Reeves and producer Will Mineo took these concepts and built a story for a new Spider-Man show around it. The initial pitch to Marvel was for Spider-Man to be stranded on Counter-Earth, only to discover that in this alternate world, Uncle Ben was still alive and that Earth's version of Peter Parker had become evil after discovering the symbiote. Reeves pitched the idea to Marvel's executives in February 1999, who largely liked the fresh take on the character, but hesitated on the idea of featuring two different versions of Spider-Man, due to the recent issues the company had experienced with the Clone Saga. As a result, Uncle Ben and the second Peter were scrapped, in favour of Venom and Carnage arriving on Counter-Earth, with Peter following the two to stop and apprehend them. With these ideas now finalised, Saban and Coco Enterprises began to bring this new animated series to life, and on October 2nd, 1999, the world was first introduced to Spider-Man Unlimited. The original season of Spider-Man Unlimited lasted 13 episodes, running from October 1999 to March of 2001, with the two-part episode Worlds Apart ushering viewers into this new take on the classic hero. The pilot episode sees a spacecraft led by John Jameson heading to the newly discovered Counter-Earth, when the villainous Venom and Carnage attempt to hijack the rocket. Peter Parker, there as the event photographer for the Daily Bugle, suits up as Spider-Man and attempts to fight the two villains, only for the ship to crash and Jameson to be presumed dead. Months later, a transmission arrives from John Jameson, revealing that he's still alive and he made it to Counter-Earth, with Peter, equipped with a new nanosuit designed by Reed Richards, flying to the planet to attempt to rescue him. Upon arriving on Counter-Earth though, Peter discovers a race of anthropomorphic animals called Bestials, who control the planet, with humans reduced to second-class citizens. Spider-Man is then attacked and kidnapped by the Knights of Wundagore, a group of elite mercenaries working for the High Evolutionary, before he manages to escape and discover John Jameson, now the leader of the planet's human resistance. Spider-Man decides to join the cause and vows to stay with Jameson on Counter-Earth until balance is restored and the High Evolutionary is defeated. This introduces the overarching premise of the show, with Spider-Man and the Human Rebellion fighting the Knights and the High Evolutionary, as Peter also attempts to track down Venom and Carnage, who plan on unleashing millions of symbiotes onto Counter-Earth and killing all remaining humans on the planet. Throughout the later episodes though, a number of familiar Spider-Man characters do also show up, though in reimagined ways. Most notably, Episode 3 introduces us to Counter-Earth's version of the Green Goblin, a superhero vigilante who teams up with Spider-Man to fight the Bestials and free New York from their control. Likewise, reimaginings of the Vulture and Electro all make sporadic appearances throughout the later episodes of the show. The climactic episode, entitled Destiny Unleashed, is one of particular note, and sees Venom and Carnage finally enact their master plan, unleashing an entity known as the Synoptic that will take control of all living creatures on Counter-Earth. Spider-Man, John Jameson, Green Goblin and the Rebellion face off against the High Evolutionary and the Bestials, as the symbiotes reject their hosts of Eddie Brock and Cletus Cassidy, as they no longer need them to survive now they have the Synoptic. Peter and the rebels defeat the High Evolutionary and rescue Brock and Cassidy, only to discover that the Synoptic's master plan has already begun, as the city around them becomes engulfed in symbiotes. How will Spider-Man and the gang save the day this time? Well, that's a question that we can't really answer. The cliffhanger ending of Season 1 seemingly raised the stakes for the future episodes of Spider-Man Unlimited. The only problem though was that Spider-Man Unlimited was cancelled after its initial 13-episode run, and the show never got a second season or any real conclusion. The question as to why the show was cancelled is a good one. While the series never reached the levels of popularity that the original Spider-Man show did in 1994, it was by no means a disaster, pulling in high to mid 3.0 ratings throughout its first run of episodes. However, Fox Kids' overall ratings at the time were suffering noticeable declines, with Unlimited first airing in the same time slot as Warner Bros.' wildly popular series Pokemon. It was around this time that Roland Poindexter became Vice President of Programming for Fox Kids, and frequently began to alter the programming schedule to compete with Kids WB and the Pokemon juggernaut, and as a result, Spider-Man Unlimited was put on ice for a year, as the broadcaster began to develop new shows that could rival the likes of Pokemon. As Rick Ungar, former president of the Marvel Character Group, explained,
"What's happening is Fox is dealing with the realities of Pokemon as a competitor. They felt they needed to devote more time to those types of shows, which I understand. What's happening is Fox's Saturday programming has been really fluid. It hasn't been the same from week to week. The real problem is they have a ton of really good shows over there and they're trying to find the right formula to be competitive."
With the network's focus on new shows unchanged, Fox informed Marvel in late 1999 that after airing the delayed episodes of Unlimited's first season, they wouldn't be renewing their agreement for another season. A somber decision, especially given the creative team of the show were deep into planning the story for Unlimited's second season. Larry Brody, one of the main writers for the show, outlined the plot for the first 5 episodes of Season 2, as well as an overall arc for how it would end. The plan for Season 2 would involve Spider-Man and the Rebels stopping the Synaptic, only to discover a merged Venom and Carnage symbiote now threatening to take over the Earth. We would also see more of Counter-Earth be established, including its versions of Latveria and Wakanda, as well as reimaginings of other Spider-Man villains, namely Black Cat. Season 2 would end in a 2-episode finale, much like its premiere, with Spider-Man and the Rebels restoring order and peace to Counter-Earth, as Peter finally returns home. While it was clear that those involved with Spider-Man Unlimited truly believed in this story and aimed to bring resolution to the plots established in the initial season, it simply wasn't meant to be. And by the time that the cliffhanger ending of Season 1 premiered in early 2001, the writing was already very much on the wall for this once promising show. While I don't think Spider-Man Unlimited was necessarily near the level of quality as its predecessor series, I do think there's plenty to praise within this show on its own merit. Following such a successful and long-running show like Spider-Man the Animated Series was never going to be an easy feat, because you couldn't just make another series that directly adapted the Spider-Man comics, because it'd only feel like an imitation of what came directly prior to it. And with that in mind, I think some credit has to be given to both Marvel and Saban for instead thinking outside of the box and attempting to make a show that was visibly and thematically very different from the 1994 series, and would therefore either live or die by its own merits and failures. External factors may have led to the show's cancellation before its story could conclude, but I do still think it's somewhat strange that we never talk about Unlimited when it comes to these classic Marvel animated series. And while it may not reach the upper echelons like Spider-Man, X-Men the Animated Series, or even Spectacular Spider-Man, I do think it's worth a revisit just for the sheer spectacle of this unique take on the beloved superhero, and to wonder what might have been if its run had been anywhere near as unlimited as its name suggested. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on the video and leave a comment down below as well. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about in today's video. I can't wait to hear what you have to say as always. If you're new to Owen Likes Comics, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the notify bell next to it so you don't miss any of the other videos that we release on the channel. And if you want some more videos, there should be some on screen right now that you may also enjoy. If you want to help support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/OwenLikesComics. There'll be a link in the description. And if you want some more of me, you can follow me on Twitter just at OwenLikesComics. That's all for this video though. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, take care and keep reading.